Okay, like it's Old Home Week. That's all I have to say. We all get together because we're family, right? And I'm La-Verna Fountain. I'm excited that you're all here for the first time that we've ever gotten people together to just talk with women talking among themselves, to really share about what their experience is here at Columbia and how we can work together more. And we have our supporting men in the audience with us too, so I say give a hand to the men who showed up, you know? One of the things that I found interesting in trying to put this together, which by the way was a 3 a.m. thought 3 weeks ago, I just want you to know that. Seriously, at 3 a.m. I woke up and I went, oh, we probably should do something, huh? And the next day I reached out to the 4 women you see in front of you and said, would you mind, would you consider? And they all said, of course, we'll do that, that's great. And then I took it to my boss and I said, can we do something like this? Do you think it'd be okay if we do something like this? And he looked at me like I had 2 heads and he said, well, why not? Of course you can do something like that. He's not here, he's on vacation, I note that, but David Greenberg just really signed off just without even a second thought. He thought that this was worth doing for us getting together and just talking. And I don't often look at the news anymore because I like to keep my blood pressure low. But you know, I was looking at it and I was like, if there's ever a time for us to get together and talk, it's now. If there's ever a time when on the administrative side we should be thinking about who we are, what we stand for, what our values are, and where we want to go, it's now. So I am delighted, and let me just say, seriously, when I was at 3 a.m. thought 3 weeks ago, we were putting this together last night. So thank you, Eleanor, for coming through for me and making this possible. I appreciate that. Could I have a hand for Eleanor for putting the program together? Look. People come through when you need them, and I so appreciate it. I also want to tell you, when I look out, people sitting up here, all of you should be up here. And I'm very serious about that. What I found interesting were the women who wanted to know if this was for them too. That was kind of strange to me, that there were some women who, based upon the way they saw themselves, they weren't sure that they could be here. I want to tell you, if there's ever a moment in time when you need to change the way you look at that, it's now. You belong where you think you belong. And if someone questions you, you need to look at them and wonder what's wrong with them. I'm very serious about that. You have to decide for yourself if you're going to wear an attitude of confidence or if you're going to have an attitude that is always questioning whether or not you have enough to be enough with wherever, whatever is happening. The answer is you are enough. You, as you are, where you are right now, you are enough. The key for us in this room is to learn how to support each other in our own visions and our own dreams and our own goals so that we can all move forward in the way that we see our own vision. I did do a vision board party last weekend too. I need you to know that. Did a vision board party for some other people to help them also see, where do you want to go? What do you want to do? Because it really is about your life. It's about you deciding for yourself how you want to live. So I want to take the time to introduce to you, how are people seated? Okay, great. Starting at my far left, my far left, Tanya Pope. Tanya Pope is the Assistant Vice President for Columbia University Facilities and Operations. She serves as our university supplier diversity person and our business integration person within Facilities and Operations. Know when I first started thinking about this, Facilities and Operations is 2,000 employees strong. So I was like, Facilities and Operations really should talk with each other. We need to get together with us and talk with us. I was shocked to learn there were people outside of Facilities and Operations that actually wanted to get together and talk too. So for all of you who in here does not work for Facilities and Operations? Raise your hand for me if you're not. Would you stand up, please? Seriously, I know, ain't I ignorant? Please stand up. Can we give you all a hand for coming? I saw a hand up here. I know, I see it. I saw the hand. Okay, thank you for coming. Because you were not willing to say, oh, that's not for us. And that's very important. I want to always encourage us to support each other. When we are trying to accomplish a goal, let's support each other. That's something that Tanya Pope does. Tanya Pope used to work for me some years ago. Then she left. and she moved to D.C., and I tracked her down. And I said, Tanya, I need you to come back, because what we're trying to do is too important. And no one was able to pull things together like Tanya. And within a short period of time, we were looking at a new program called See You Grow. Tanya pulled that together in the way that our vision saw it. I was so excited to have her back. So I want to introduce to you Tanya Pope, who, by the way, this morning we were all downtown where she was being honored by city and state for corporate social responsibility, for all of her efforts with diversity and inclusion. So please have a hand for Tanya Pope. Very proud to have her with us. And next to Tanya is Honey Sue Fishman. Now here's the thing Honey Sue said when I asked her, well, you sure you want me? Thank you for thinking of me. And I'm like, well, yeah, of course. And now Honey Sue serves as the Executive Director for Business Services at Columbia University. What I can tell you about Honey Sue is every time she speaks, there's something that she shares, that she gives out, that makes you feel like, yeah, this is for me too. She cares about me too. And I appreciate so much her positive energy that every time I'm around her, I walk away feeling better. So she's someone if you don't know her, make sure you get to know Honey Sue Fishman. I'm going to skip over the next lady, and I'm going to come back to her. But then I had the nerve to go up to the medical center. And I said, Sandra, would you do this? Could you do this for us? And Sandra Harris, who is someone I've been working with for years, is simply an amazing person, period. If she has a mission, yesterday she's also the president of the Washington Heights Inwood Chamber of Commerce. You know what I mean? And so yesterday they were having their luncheon, and she's running around. I stopped by her office yesterday. Her office, number one, her desk was clean. That floored me. Her office was clean. I'm like, how is that possible? That is not possible. Everything is neat. Her office you feel so comfortable in. And she exudes this confidence that says, together we can make anything happen. I'm not telling you what's written down. And the reason why I'm not telling you what's written down is because you can read. I'm telling you about the people I know and why I asked them to be here. And Sandra is someone who simply believes deeply in people, no matter who you are, no matter where you come from, people working together. So please welcome Sandra Harris. She's my friend. And now I come to the woman who I was scared to ask to be on the panel. I was so scared. I was like, but I have to ask. And that's Susan Glancy, our university chief of staff. And I have had the opportunity to work with Susan for many years. And there's never been a time when I've worked with her that I haven't walked away more impressed. Every single time I walk away thinking of her in higher and higher ways. She continues to simply blow my mind with what she's able to accomplish. When I first met Susan many, many years ago, I remember walking away and thinking, that woman is simply a velvet fist. Whatever she does, you don't even know you've been punched because it felt so good. The velvet was so smooth. And I remember thinking, people have no idea what they're dealing with when they deal with Susan Glancy, because she is just a woman of grace. But behind that grace, there is some real punch. There is real kick, however you want to fill it in, and she gets the job done. So when I asked Susan, she said, of course, I will be there. And so I am honored, and I am just floored again that you one more time said, yeah, we can do this. We can all do this. And I thank you so much for being here, Susan. Thank you. So you know, there are chairs around here, so people coming in now, please just get seated. And like in every church, there's some chairs up front. Just know that. There's some chairs up front. I'm going to ask a few questions and allow them to respond, and then we're going to be opening it up to you all, because the goal of our time together is for us to talk with each other. And to begin with, I'm going to ask each of the panelists to basically share with you their road to Columbia and what they do at Columbia now. And Sandra, I'll start with you. We'll just keep going down, if that's okay. Just share with people.
Okay. Hi. Good afternoon. And again, thank you all for being here. So my road to Columbia. So I worked with a community organization. I ran a mental health clinic. And I sort of had reached that point at that clinic where I was like, you know, I really want to do policy. I really want to do the one-on-one. And I had the audacity to ask my boss at the time, who had recently received a grant with the great institution in our community, Columbia University, to run a national healthcare initiative that required communities and academia to work together to really improve access for underserved population. I didn't know how I was going to tell my boss that I wanted to leave and that he needed to be in that interviewing panel to allow me to come into Columbia, but I did. He recused himself from the meeting, and that's where I met the great Alan Farmacola, who was then the dean of the School of Dental at Columbia. He brought me in, and I became the executive director for the National Healthcare Initiative Community Voices. So at that time, it was very intimidated. I've never been in academia. And all of a sudden, I was working at Columbia, running a $4.5 million grant, where some of the faculty, you know, I had to supervise because they were responding to my initiative. So it was a very intimidating time for me in terms of navigating academia. But I had a wonderful, wonderful boss who basically just said, week by week, so just tell me what you need me to do so that they can respond and you can actually do the work that you were brought here to do, which is really to bridge the gap between academia and community. And he was just phenomenal in terms of the support that I received internally. So we were able to leverage relations with community. Our initiative, we brought the initiative from $4.5 million to $30 million in community grants and partnerships across Washington Heights and Harlem. So at the time, it was a 5-year grant. And again, I felt that I had outgrown that position, and I wanted in. I did not want to be part of a school. I really wanted to be part of the administration, because one of the things that I was able to do is really build this connection with faculty in terms of what their mission was and the work that they wanted to do out in the community. So at the time, a great colleague of mine, actually my comadre, was the executive vice president for government and community affairs at the time, and she was leaving. So I said, So I then again knocked on some doors, and I was interviewed for the position of executive vice president. Oh, the dean would not like this. I'm not executive vice president, I'm assistant vice president, although watch out in Goldman, I may be after that one. So I became assistant vice president for government and community affairs. So what I do now is really represent the entire medical center campus in development initiatives, support a lot of our research faculty, build linkages with community in order to support their research and advances. What I love about what I do is that I'm really able to tap into the enormous resources that our university has and really connect those resources with those who need it most, with our communities. And I've been able to leverage relationships in a way that now faculty and community just sort of go off and meet on their own and write joint grants. We most recently now have a new program where we have community providers and residents coming into Columbia and taking trainings on participatory research and really working in a very collaborative way with our faculty. So it's something that I enjoy, and I really love what I do here.
Thank you. Susan.
La-Verna, my friend. So what I really said to La-Verna was, of course, I will do it for you.
That's what she said.
And the theme with that is greatness follows greatness. So it was an easy thing. When La-Verna asks you to do something, you do it. So I was delighted to do that. Thank you. I was also delighted to be part of this panel. She was very clever in saying, and here's who's going to be on the panel. I said, well, sure. And I want to know collectively how many years we've been here. because it's probably a lot, right? I mean, we could be close to 100 years. So my path to Columbia started almost 20 years ago. I was 12. That isn't true, but I have a kind of a story that maybe many of you have, which I came by accident. I had a friend who worked here. That's how the story goes with a lot of us. And I was looking for something new. I had been in the corporate world for a little bit. Prior to that, had been in the artistic world for a little bit. And he said, well, come have lunch with me at Columbia, which I did. And I walked in, I said, what is this? And it, the oasis, the experience, fill in the story, which you've all got. And I started as a casual in 1999. And my story, which is the story I want to tell today, is this pursuit for excellence. And so the story is, I started as a casual. I was in the controller's office, and my boss at the time said, okay, here's what we do. We reconcile these books. And he threw, this was 1999, so, 3 massive books my way, and said, reconcile it. So at the end of the day, I gave him the 3 books, and they were reconciled. Wow. And he said, what? He's like, that takes my team 5 months to do. Get out of my department. And I said, wait. Let's have a conversation about this. And the reason that's an important story is that I looked at the book and I said, how can I make this better? What can I do to make this better? How can I make it more efficient? What can I do? And it was a joke. I mean, he didn't really kick me out. He said, perhaps you need to be doing different things. And I said, well, let me first work with your team and tell them what I did. So anyway, I got pushed over to the business school because they said, you need to be in the business school. Happy to have gone. And I wanted to pursue a career in HR because I like to work with people. That's my artistic background. I was a theater major. I love the study of people. In the corporate world, I work for Disney, love people. So I wanted to be in HR, and they happened to have an HR opening. And they said, can you do this for a little while? And I said, sure. That one thing led to another. The theme, again, is how can I make this better? What can I do to make this better? And my community was very small. And so I started to find ways to increase my community. And I went out into the university, and that's when I really fell in love with Columbia University. The business school loved them too, but when I started to discover all of the partners, and HR was a great way to do that. I met facilities folks. I met people from every sector of the university, and I loved it. And again, constantly trying to make things better. I was invited to take on a job in Central HR. Didn't know what the job was, just come, interestingly, and make it better. And I said, I'll do that. And I was at the time, you may know, working with Lisa Hogarty, who has that mindset. I think all of you know Lisa, right? We might all stem from Lisa at one point, because she had that mentality. How do you make this better? And so I was in Central HR for a little while. And the essence of my job was going into different departments, assessing and saying, here's what we could do. Here's how we can make that more efficient. Here's what we could do. And then one day I was invited to meet with the president. Okay, can I tell my really secret story?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is being videotaped. Okay.
My secret story is, it's actually a really cute story. Lisa said, I need you to meet. I have your next job. Lee is looking for a chief of staff. I said, okay. And I'm thinking, I'm not a chief of staff. All right. Meanwhile, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking Dean Goldman. I'm thinking, well, what do I know about the medical profession, and why is she thinking but okay, I'm a citizen of this community, so next thing, as we're going through the conversation, I realized she's talking about the president, Lee Bollinger. Okay, now I'm really lost. Why on earth would I ever be invited to have this conversation? She said, no, 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 please go. Ended up having a conversation with President Bollinger, and I'd be delighted to talk all day about him. He's a wonderful person to work for, magnificent visionary. And interesting, what he said was, I need someone to make things better. And I said, I can do that. And that's kind of what I do. As a chief of staff, I make things better. And how I view and approach my job, and hopefully anyone that works with me would say this, I work for you. I pull out the best in people, I see where the talents lie, and deploy. And so that's what I do. I'm, as David Stone likes to say, a chief of stuff. So I grab stuff and I work on it, and then we make things better. That's my story.
Thank you. So can I go back and answer part of your question? Sandra, how long have you been here?
17 years.
Okay. Susan?
So I'm 18.
Okay. 17, 18. Okay. Honey,
On my
Sue.
second round, it'll be a year next month. Prior to that, 2.5.
Okay.
So that's a lot.
So my story, first of all, I see so many themes that, I already see themes that run in between everybody's story. I did not have a master plan to be here, nor does it even make sense or seem to have any logic as I look back. The first half of my career was in the fashion industry, which I fell into also by accident. Someone I knew suggested I go meet with the CEO of a company. So I went there, clad in I don't know if you're familiar with Laura Ashley, but I was wearing this dress with like this big floral print and thinking I was just rocking the interview. And I walked into this fancy showroom and that was all black and sleek, and everybody looked, just right, and I thought, this can't be right for me. But I sat down with the CEO of this company, and before I knew it, within an hour, he had sold me on the position. And I listened to my instincts, and it felt right, and so I took the job, and that started my career in licensing, in store licensing, in trademark licensing. And I stayed there for quite some time. He is to this day one of my greatest mentors. It led me to another position that I went to, I hate to say, only for the money. And at the time I realized I thought it was a misstep, except that it actually led me to here. So I don't really believe that anything that we do is ever really a misstep if it leads you to a place that's positive at the end of the day. When I came here, I was, I think, outspoken by the gentleman who is now my current boss. You may know him, Scott Wright. You may know how he speaks, but by the end of that interview, I had also accepted the position, never expecting to be in higher ed. I really knew nothing about it. I knew that my mother was an alum of the School of Social Work. I knew that they had paid for part of my tuition at some point in my college life. It turns out they didn't make such a bad investment because I've been here now paying back for 15 years. But somehow it all seemed to work out, and I ended up in a role where, again, we get to serve all the different communities that are in this extraordinary place. The work that I do now, the trademark licensing, crosses from Columbia over to our affiliates because they use our word marks. The contracts that I oversee and develop and procure across all of our campuses, all the way up to Lamont and back, now Manhattanville. And the student center operation was one of those things that came to me the last part of my stint here, and it has just been a tremendous honor to be able to work with the students and develop a better place for them to be and for us to work. And I just, stay true to my passions, and it takes you through all the frustrations and everything else that you can run into on a day-to-day basis. So
Thank you. Thank you. Tanya.
am I doing that? I'm like, hi. So, my journey here was very tangential. It sometimes doesn't even make sense when I look back on it, like how all of the different steps occurred. It would take me a couple of hours to tell you like the whole story, but suffice to say that I've worked in a lot of different industries, in publishing, in the airline industry, in hotels. I've worked for cable, television. I had a consulting firm for 2 years, and when I first met La-Verna, I was working for the Department of Small Business Services, a government employee. Actually, on my last day there at the little party they give you, I thanked them for letting me masquerade as a government employee for 3 years. But my job here is really around connections, connecting people to services, connecting businesses to the folks that might need their services, making sure my colleagues have the services that they need. I think of myself as the chief of meaningful collisions. Like, I love putting people together and for things turning out well and it benefiting both parties. So what I do is primarily around the Minority Women Local initiative that we have here at Columbia, and I try to find capable firms that can help us do the work that we do, as well as I have a program which Roddy Miranda on my staff runs called See You Grow that we just launched in February, and it's taking vendors of the university that we think have greater ability to help them get larger and more contracts with the university and with other firms. And so they have coaches, some of them which are here at Columbia, and we are going to walk them through this exercise, this initiative, until November to see how that all works out. But really, my job here, and it's so funny because La-Verna talks about the fact that I left Columbia. I was in a lot of angst when I left because it wasn't because I didn't like my job. It wasn't because I wanted to or needed more money. It was a family issue that made me go back to my hometown. And once that got resolved, I was kind of calling La-Verna and saying, what's going on there? And she was calling me saying, we need to talk. So here I am back, loving this work that we do, loving making a difference. One of the things I like about small business development, which is sort of the area that I'm in, is that every small thing you do for a small business counts. You know, if they get a contract, you can see that impact in their firm, with their families, with their employees, in their community. You just see how far it goes, and I get a lot of pleasure out of seeing their success. So,
Tanya, would you just share about the Connecticut ball, or whatever that is that you're talking about, that you just made, the athletics just got a ball, whatever that thing is, you know that thing?
Well, this is one of the ways that we make connections. I discovered this minority woman-owned company that was local, right on Lenox Avenue, called Uncharted Play. And there are a bunch of these like Ivy League, techies who are creating kinetic energy in devices. So they have jump ropes that will create energy that you can charge your phone on, or strollers, or soccer balls. And so I talked to a few of my colleagues, Christina, Jessica Prada, and Joyce Jackson and we went over and did a little visit with them and saw all of their products and everything that they were doing. And we realized we wanted to work with them in some way. And so this was like maybe 6 or 7 months ago. Just this week, someone from athletics called and said, well, we're interested in getting some of those kinetic balls for the Little Lions Club. So those are like the connections that we try to make with the community and with all of the offices of Columbia University.
Thank you. Now, how many people saw the movie Hidden Figures? Yeah. So when Susan was talking about those binders and how she reconciled that is what immediately went through my head. So the amazing women in Hidden Figures, one of them was a math genius, and she had to do the unbelievable while she had to run to the segregated bathroom that was down the road, but she would always complete the task. In fact, she would go beyond what anyone what anybody else did, which is what you did. You were this woman from a theater background coming in to look at something, you're like, okay, and then stack given to you, and at the end of the day, have resolved it. And for me, that is who we are. In many ways, we are the hidden figures here at Columbia. We get the stuff done. It doesn't matter to me what the deadline may be. Can I just look over at Joe Raschuti right now and say, Lenfest, oh my God, did we get it done? Right? It didn't matter. I'm looking at Victoria Benitez, who was supposed to focus on public affairs at the time, and I'm like, hey, Victoria, can you stay all day? Because we're going to need some help. Can we? And she's like, of course. Whatever it takes. It's whatever it takes. And the theme that I heard here was that people make things better. Walking through the door, it's not, well, it doesn't matter what my job title is, it's, I got to make this better. What is it that I'm seeing here that can make it better? And I have the awesome privilege of working with, first of all, my own personal team at Columbia, that every single one of them, that's how they operate. Every single one of them. It doesn't matter whatever anyone asks, they're going to look at it, do it, and make it better. They have every single time surpassed anything I've thought of. And then I get to work with all these other fabulous people that aren't a part of my team, but they are, because once you're in my team, you're always in my team. And in fact, they carry that same attitude every single time. I have to tell you, I've been at Columbia now almost 11 years. The one place I never, ever wanted to move, live, or work was New York. Ever. I was clear about that. Too many people in New York, too much stuff happening here. I'm a country girl. I'm from a little town where there's only 3,000 people. We do country. We do trees, we do mountains, we sit on the porch, we cook, that's what we do. And one time I remember I was saying something about doing a yard sale, and Maxine said, we don't do yard sale here. We do stoop sales. You know, that's how we do it here. And I realized it was a completely different thought process, right? So I get a phone call from David Stone saying, do you think you could come here? We're starting this Manhattanville thing, and I'm going to need some help. Can you come? I had worked with David Stone 20 plus years now, 25 years worked with him. And he needed someone with my military background. That's what I now know since I'm here, that's really what he wanted. He wanted the Army brat to come and really do some stuff. And 11 years later, here I still am. But after 2 years in getting through the ULURP process, I actually said, you know what? That was my face and my name out there talking. I now have to do something to make sure every single thing we said we're gonna do, we're gonna do. I said that one time, and the next thing I knew, they were creating a position for me within facilities to do exactly what I needed to be able to do, and that was to follow this process through. I'm saying that because as everyone spoke, what I hear is, if you're willing to bring your best self to it, there's always another opportunity at Columbia. Always, always, always. So having said that, I'm going to now go to Susan. I'll start with you because I'll put you on the spot that way, and just say, could you share with people what has been the most difficult part of being here for you at Columbia?
The most difficult. So the story I wanted to tell today was, again, the story of excellence. And if I leave this group with nothing else, it's that word, excellence. And please, please, please find it and exploit it. Mm-hmm. Find examples of it and apply it to your work. And I was trying to think, okay, what story could I tell that everybody could relate to? And I'll tell you just from my own experience, I look at everything. I take it all in. And one afternoon I was with this is a non-Columbia story, so as to not pick on anyone. I was at Absolute Bagels. Anybody familiar with it? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I love Absolute Bagels. And I sat there with my eldest daughter, who at the time was 1. So we were there a long time while she ate her bagel. But what happened was I watched the employee slice the bagels for every single person that came in. And he had mastered slicing bagels. Mastered it. He had a technique on how he picked it up, because they were hot. He had a technique how he put it on the cutting board. He had a technique how he set it up, how he sliced the first slice, then how he finished it, how he put the cream cheese on, how he wrapped it, how he put the napkins in, how he put the coffee in the bag so it didn't flop over and get your bagel wet. It was perfection, and I was enthralled. And I thought to myself, how does a bagel employee show me excellence? And this is how I approach my job at Columbia. Now, I tell this story because find those examples, and they're everywhere. They're in food service, they're in athletics, they're in secretarial support, they're in executive function, they're everywhere at Columbia. Find those and exploit them. What's hardest about my job is that once you've got that appetite, it's really hard to be around anything else. So I knew, just by the fact that all of you are here, that you have a taste for it. So my challenge and my call is to say, please just share it, nurture it, give it, and help people understand that that actually means something. And your opportunities are endless if you do that. With respect to work-life balance, that's also hard. But it's also easy. If you, again, have excellence as your frame of mind in everything you do, you're not going to surrender that frame of mind at home or at work. And the key word to me for work-life balance is balance. So work has to feel right, and whatever you do at home has to feel right. If that's a family, if that's a whatever your life is outside of work, mine happens to be a family, that has to be balanced. So open communication, both at home and at work, to always strike that balance. Balancing things, that's not easy. I mean, try and walk a tightrope. That's not easy. Got to have good balance. So, you have, it's a nuanced thing. You have to work at it. That's the other part of work-life balance. You have to work at it. And you have to adjust. You have to be flexible. And that's not always easy. And I'd be delighted to talk more about that, but others. Anyway, so that's what's hard is mediocrity. Mediocrity is really hard.
Honey Sue.
So I was smiling when you were speaking because in preparation for this discussion, I asked some of the vendors that I work with and members of my own team, give me the top pro and the top con of working with me. And they all, 3 of them, in separate rooms said to me, you are relentless. And I said, well, is that the pro or the con? And they said, well, it's both. So, because I am relentless in my pursuit, our coordinated pursuit of excellence in this place, no matter what we do. And with the Student Center, if it's not facilities, then it's how we utilize the space for the students and how clean we keep it. And if it's the contracts, it's the details that we put in the work that we do. And if it's the licensing, it's how do we represent the brand, across the globe, because that's where we are. So it's just super important. And if that's my biggest con, I'll take it. If it's my biggest pro, I'll expect it from everybody else that works with me.
Could you just say that last part one more time? If it's the pro, say it loud enough.
If it's the pro,
Say it loud. Say it loud.
I'll expect it from everybody else around me. But I think everybody knows that it comes from a genuine place of love for what we do and who we are and what we want to be, because it's a continual growth process. Work-life balance for me are children. I don't know, balance is a funny word in how you define it. Sometimes it's a perfect imbalance. Sometimes there's equality in what we do, and sometimes there's an inequality, but by design. So I'm fortunate enough to have a great partner. So sometimes, there's an inequality, but it's by design, it's by conversation, it's by mutual agreement. on how we're going to do things, when we're going to do things, and when we allow the children to decide when they can do things. But it all fits, and it's something that everybody has to figure out for themselves because it all means different things to different people.
Thank you. Tanya?
What's hard? I see, by virtue of what we do, we collect and document all of the commitments that the university has in regard to Manhattanville. And
How many is that again?
over 300. And I have to give a big thumbs up to Christine Salto because she is the queen of commitments, okay? She is amazing. And I learn from her every day. But I see so many great things that the university is doing, and I'm so proud to be at Columbia and working here. And then I see what the perceptions are of what we're doing, and they don't always match, and that's hard for me. And I would love to have people understand more about the good that we do and so much of it. But Rome wasn't built in a day. I'll just keep being an ambassador and going about and letting people know all of the things that they can take advantage of. I can't really talk well to work-life balance because I'm still working on it.
Yes, you are. Yes, you
I'm just
are.
going to be honest about that. So,
Tanya needs many reminders that she needs to balance out her life.
stop coming to work on holidays.
Yeah.
But I'm going to pitch it to Sandra.
Yes, that's probably good. Sandra, anyone who specializes in that, Tanya needs help, okay? All right.
I'm not sure that I can help with that, but I'll do my best. So I guess I have to talk about my challenging times, connecting it to what I truly value, have learned to value here at Columbia, and that's a commitment to excellence as well. I don't know if you recall when we had a blackout in Washington Heights. I don't know if you guys, it was just Washington Heights. So at that time I was in the black building, we call it the black building. And I was it was a weekend, and I was there because a community group was using one of our spaces. So we were co-hosting their event. So as I'm leaving the Hammer building, I'm going towards Black. All of a sudden, facilities, security, everyone's out there preventing our researchers from entering the building because we had no electricity. And I just saw all these researchers and faculty members that I looked up to and respected in tears, crying because they needed to get up there because the refrigerators, their research projects, everything was in ruin. And I was sitting, I'm like, what are they crying? And as I heard their stories, I said, oh my God, there's real love here. They really, truly are committed to what they do every single day. And since that day, I said, that's my story. How do I convey to our community that in these walls, in this building, we're doing great, great work. We're saving lives. These faculty, these individuals are committed to excellence, to making things better. So it was just, for me, it was just like a light bulb that went on, and I said, I don't have to go to meetings and defend Columbia and say we're good neighbors, we do great things. All I have to do is talk about the great work that our faculty does every single day to make our lives better. This was when we were doing Manhattanville, and our faculty needed to go up there and say, oh, this is great. I'm just gonna get our doctors, our researchers to tell everyone what they do every single day. So that's the easy part of my job in a sense, because I can translate the love and commitment they have to excellence. When we're working with community groups and underserved population, just to say, hey, I have a tour of one of our labs, to be able to walk a diabetes patient, to talk to that researcher that has been for the past 10, 15 years working to improve their lives, to improve medication, to improve medicine, to improve all of our lives. So that's the easy part now for me, just to convey the love and commitment that we have for excellence. Now, similar to what Tanya was saying, it's sometimes what we do out there makes it very difficult for me to go out there and tell those stories, because there's so much noise about the 800-pound gorilla in the room that tries to cut away from me being able to connect to those stories. So, but for me, over and over again, I look for those opportunities where I can get back to what we do, that it's good, and what we do that we're excellent at. We're really good at saving lives, in academia, at doing great things. We just need to continuously work on how we tell our stories, because that matters. And that's what I try to do every day, is really find the ways to tell our stories a lot better. And really demonstrate the love and commitment to excellence that happens in this place every single day. It's so overwhelming. There's true commitment. I mean, you just have to walk into one of our labs and our patient care, and you just see it in what they do and how they express that love. So that's.
What about your work-life balance, honey?
Well, this is what I do with work-life balance, because I get to do so much out there in the community, and unfortunately it is after hours. It requires travel. What I was able to do when my kids were younger is I made them part of my work life. So a lot of the times, yes, when I did have those late community board meetings, I would have my child with me, whether it's doing homework and promising a treat, or maybe going to Coogan's, one late night, which was great because it was an adult restaurant. So it's difficult because it's, for me, my work life is very similar to my family life. If I'm building partnerships and addressing conflicts and issues at work, I'm doing the same at home. So a lot of the times I use several scenarios to say, well, this is how I dealt with this at work, and this is how we can make this better. So I think that for me it's helped, because my work also allows me to dig into my culture, the community that I love, those activities, and I'm able to spread that bug to my kids as well. So I've been able to integrate them. Now they're older, they're like, oh, mom's at work, I'm not even going to call. They leave me alone.
Thank you. I think what I'd like to do, if it's okay, is turn to the audience and start to open it up for questions that you may have, questions or comments. I think I have to what can I do with Mike, guys? Do I have him? Oh, okay. Pat Lilly, who is my program coordinator, is gonna run around and play Oprah a little bit. And please, as much as I appreciate that we were able to give you a low light lunch, I also expect y'all to engage and communicate here too. So, questions, comments from folks around? Thank you, Christina, because I know, other people just need to get with it. Okay. Yes. Yes. And Christina, would you stand when you speak, and please share what you do here, because we want to know people.
My name is Christina Hernandez, and I work in communications, fortunately for me, for La-Verna Fountain, and I support campus services primarily. And you said something that sparked a question about finding opportunities here at Columbia and then going for them. And I wondered if you all could maybe talk to us a little bit about how to help find those opportunities for other women here, maybe our peers, or in particular women that are, maybe more junior in their career. And it reminded me of something I read about. I'm sure a lot of you heard about some women that had worked for President Obama, had said they had adopted this tactic in meetings where if they heard, another female on the staff offer a comment or, an idea, they would repeat it to try to give more weight to it. And it made me kind of think of, of that, like, are there tactics that we all could be employing for our female colleagues to help them?
I've got one, because it's very similar, when you see excellence, you exploit it. So I'm always, La-Verna Fountain, she's great. Or what I saw today? Let me tell you this story. Or, or Joe, I love working with Joe. That stuff matters to the culture much more and interviewing, much more than formal paths. When you see something, say something. And people hear it. And you know, people start to believe it. Hey, Joe really is good. Okay, because I heard that in a meeting. And then if an interview does happen, they're kind of set up. So understand the importance of your own influence, and understand that you actually have the power to make somebody else great. And then
I'm sorry, so please repeat that again. That is
you
really
have
important.
the power to make someone else great. And because you are around greatness, greatness follows greatness, people start to think that maybe you know something. It's all kind of a game. That's my own style, and that's what I enjoy doing, and I've seen it happen over and over, and I see it happen a lot. And in terms, I mean, both in HR and then in what I do now, it's okay, so who do we know? And you know, if you go into corporate world, that's what they do too. The HR person sits at the table and they say, who do you know? It's not, let's look at the resumes and let's follow. That's important too. I don't want to devalue that. It's just when you complement it with this other, you know, who are the great people, say the names.
Someone on my team, write that down for me. You have the, without saying it, you have the opportunity to make someone else great. Is that what, I just need.
Well, your influence is powerful.
I just need to write that on my vision board. I'm so sorry. I'm like, yeah, that's for my vision board.
That's what you do. Somebody else, yeah.
That is really, for me, that is very powerful.
Yeah.
I would also say, in addition to just talking about it, also make the connections. I think that sometimes when we work on projects, we do have opportunities to bring people on board, whether they're not part of your team, but they're adding to those initiatives. In my case, I do a lot of volunteer initiatives and connecting with community. So I would reach out to a department and say, by the way, I have this luncheon in Greater Harlem. I think it'll be great for your program if you came. So I also try to bring them out and sort of say, I talked to someone and get them to know one another. What is it that we do? So what I would say is support and open doors, just to expand their horizons in terms of networking and meeting with other powerful women.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that I think that one of the responsibilities that we have as managers, if we are managers in our roles, is to give our own people the opportunity to show their greatness. And with their successes comes your success. So I think it's, you know, by helping others, you help yourself just as much.
I couldn't agree with you more, honey. I've never done anything by myself. It's always because I've had a great team, and my team will tell you, I get so excited to see their growth. Like if we learn a new app or a new software, I'm so thrilled at it, you know? I'm like, oh, look what we did. I love seeing them become better and better, but I have a great belief in giving back, and I think any success that I obtain or receive is only warranted because I'm willing to hold my hand out and reach for the person behind me. And it doesn't have to be somebody I work with, it doesn't have to be someone I know. If it's just giving someone a resource, oh, you may want to check this out, or I heard about this, all those little things count. So just being willing to give of yourself and help other people, and knowing that you can only be a leader if you're willing to invest in the growth of others.
Very good, very good. Questions, comments from the leaders in the room? Pat's got the mic.
Hi, I'm Linda Horwath. I'm with Public Safety. I'm a project manager. And I just want to express that I think all of us here, including big time myself, I love this university. And there's so many people that I get to work with, facilities, all the way from uptown, vendors, people up there. And when we get together as a team, it just enlightens your heart to say, wow, you know, they really did a good job. Or, yes, I did a good job. And I think that's just so wonderful to have this communication. It makes me feel good, and I just wanted to share that. And thank you very much, all of you. You really do a great, great, great job. Thank you.
Thank you. You can. Can I ask the group a question? In addition to this being Women's History Month, this is also Women in Construction Month. And I don't have anyone up here because I actually couldn't pick from the great women in construction that are at Columbia. And if you work in as a project manager or director or VP overseeing construction, would you just stand if you're here?
We're all really yeah.
Thank you. If I were you, I would be wondering why one of you aren't up here. I have to tell you that. And I literally ran into my own wall because every time I said someone's name to myself, I was like, I can't just pick them over someone else because they're all good. And so it would have been a panel just on the women in construction. That's why you're not up here. I need to let you know that. I also need to let you know there was one woman that didn't stand up because she's no longer with Columbia, but in fact she has been, and she is a project manager. Sheena Basu, would you please stand? Yeah. Sheena saw we were doing this and she wanted to come, and if you're a part of my family, you remain a part of my family, and Sheena is always going to be a part of my family, also because I adopted her child, who is now my granddaughter. So and Sheena, could you let people know what you're doing? Would you give Sheena the mic, Pat? So I want people to know what she's doing now.
So cute. I guess I should have known this was going to happen, right? I'm a project manager at Memorial Sloan Kettering, but, you know, most of the faces here have known me since I was 17. That's when I started.
How was that? How did you start here, Sheena?
As a casual. You know, I went to boarding school upstate New York. My boyfriend's mom worked here, and she was leaving to work with the city, and she said, well, you know, let me see if I can get you in so you can work for the summer. I worked for the summer, and then I went to college and worked more summers, and I came back. I thought I was going to work on Wall Street, and I called my old boss and said, well, what's going on? He's like, oh, we just got rid of a casual. Come back. And, you know, 11 years later, 5 promotions. I worked here for 8 years, and I worked at the medical center with Sandra for 3 years. God is good.
There you go. Questions, comments from the audience? It's your time. And as I said, I believe any one of you could be up here. And it'd be okay if we hear from men too. Y'all can talk, okay? Especially if they're going to talk about women. Absolutely.
Hello, hi, I'm Grace. I work for Conference Housing, Columbia Housing. Thank you, ladies, for being here. And my question is, if there's any advice that you can think of that you wish you would have had when you were starting your career, what would that be?
When I started my career.
They're thinking.
I don't know. I mean, sometimes I think that when I see, work with other women and other folks, I just see that they are so focused, you know, they just have one area of expertise and they're great on that. And I'm like, but how come I'm not like that? I work on all of these things and I'm really all over. And then I say, you know, well, that's what makes what I do unique, and this is why I enjoy it, because I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly involved in a different project, in a new project where I have to resort to new colleagues, new friends, and really do the research and learn more. I think that one advice that I wish I would have had early on, I think now that I'm a little bit more mature, I think I have it, is just to believe more in myself, that what I'm saying matters, and trust me, they understand. I had a tendency to, oh, are they clear? Did I say that right? No, they did. They just keep on walking. And I think I wish someone would have said, you're fine, and just keep on walking. Yeah.
If I had some advice to give my younger self, I would say, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to reinvent yourself. And when doors close, have the confidence to know that you're resilient and that you're going to come back even stronger than ever. I've got, in my history of work, I've been laid off twice. I've had 2 companies go out of business, and experienced about 3 downsizings. I wasn't the one that was downsized, but we called it the day that the living would envy the dead, because the people who left got these wonderful packages. They got a year's salary, a place to work, email, and we got to do their work. So, but just know that you will bounce back better than ever, and it's likely just a turn in your career that's going to the next best thing.
Thank you.
What would I give? So for the people who know me, I'm not always the most patient person when it comes to getting to the good result or to a better place. There's something, I think when I was younger, if somebody had, I heard it, I'm familiar with the proverb. It's not credited to anybody that I know. It's just an old African proverb. And it says, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. A lot of people know it, but I think it's so true that, your career is genuinely a journey. And, when I was younger, I wanted to go everywhere so quickly. But it's just not like that. It's similar to life, There's a lot to learn along the way, and you really appreciate it when you do it as a group and you do it well and whatever. So I think I would add that.
I was going to say something similar, interestingly, which I wish I understood the value of time years ago, and on multiple dimensions. One, the value of time with, self-reflection, and where are you really in your career? Do you really have those skills? When you look up, can you fill that void? Probably not. There's probably things you need to do. Take the time to learn and absorb and understand. And so the value of time in that respect, I think I wish I had known. And then I also wish that I knew the value of time for difficult situations. Time is a healer. I didn't say this earlier, but one hard part of my job is that all the problems of the university come right to me. Not that I'm the problem solver, but I often get the problems to the people that can solve them. But that's hard. And sometimes just taking the 5 minutes or the 5 days or whatever time it might take to just see if it can resolve itself, or can you get wisdom from somebody else. Time really can, strategic time, not laziness. Strategic time. I wish I had understood that earlier in my career, because I use it all the time.
Who asked that question?
Grace.
Grace, if I can give you 2 pieces of advice. I would say, please love yourself as much as you love anybody else. Women in particular have a habit of putting other people before them. We will invest everything we've got to see someone else be okay. Please do the same thing for yourself. And the second piece of advice I get, and I have to tell you, I've had it turned on me by Ratty Miranda. The great philosopher Winnie the Pooh said that today is my absolute favorite day. La-Verna Fountain says when Ratty comes to her and she's having a very bad day and he interrupts my negativity by saying, "La-Verna, what day is it?" My response must be, it's my absolute favorite day. And then I stop and I say, yesterday was amazing. It doesn't matter how bad it was amazing because it was my day. I can't repeat it, it was my day. So it was amazing. But today is my absolute favorite day. Every time that happens, it reminds me it's all I've got. I can look ahead, I can look back, but the only day I have to work with is the one I'm in. And so it is up to me to make whatever moment I am in my favorite moment. Whatever you're doing, I don't care if someone's yelling in your face. If they're yelling at you, at that moment inside your head, say, that La-Verna said, Winnie the Pooh said, it's my absolute favorite day. It will allow you to change the whole script. Everything about it. You are the master of what your brain decides to stay with. Remember that. You are the master of that. Okay.
Great.
Petros.
My name is Peter Michaelides, or Petros Michaelides. I'm an associate vice president in finance here in facilities. So I was looking at the program, and I actually read it.
Thank you.
And it says breaking down barriers. So could you describe some barriers that you have faced in your careers and how you overcame them as women?
Good question. Good question.
Group dynamics are interesting. So group dynamics, I think, and it's different now than it was 18 years ago, I can say that. But group dynamics are interesting as women, I think in all organizations. I know Columbia best because I've been in it. But, you know, you find that sometimes it is that men like to talk over, and sometimes I will not attribute this to anyone. What I have learned is that when a good idea is a good idea, it's often repeated by a man, and it's taken by the man.
That's true, we can clap on it.
I know that others know that, and so what I have learned is the confidence to say that. In settings like this. I'm not confrontational, so that's not going to be something that I'm going to deal with in the moment. But I do recognize that it happens, and so I try and find the confidence in myself to keep putting the ideas on the table. Obviously, they're good because others are taking them. And then also, I see that I've struck a chord. That's good. Yes. And also going back, you know, junior employees, find your voice and please just keep. It's okay. Our society is still evolving. Our society is still learning how to navigate that. But in that process of evolution, I've learned not to try and break the spirit of the good idea, even if it's, you know, nurtured and fostered by someone else. I hope that's an okay thing to say.
So how many people have ever offered a good idea and somehow it didn't get heard? And then 5 minutes later it came out of someone else's mouth and it got heard. You're like, how did that happen?
Yeah, that's a...
Right? And it was the best idea ever when it came out of someone else's mouth. You're like, okay, all right,
Yeah, I would say, and I have a quote, and I'm not that shy, I do speak it, I do say it in the meetings, but I have this thing that says it sounds better when they say it. So I do tend to repeat it over and over again. So in terms of those barriers, it's one, and I call it that not being heard. And it comes in different ways. It's whether you're working on multiple projects of significance and made extraordinary strides to make it happen, and just sort of hear that acknowledgement go elsewhere, and being able to continually come back to sort of retell your story, to make sure that not just you, but also the women and others who work with you so hard on these projects, to make sure that they also get the recognition. I think that in terms of overcoming that, because particularly for me, I find myself in a lot of situations at work where I am the only female, the only Black Latina, and I put all these other Black Latina, short, I give them all. I say, I'm filling all the categories that need to be filled out there. So understanding that all this bubble is around me, and that weight that also puts on me when I'm going to speak or present, it's also constantly saying to myself in those meetings, well, I'm gonna put this behind me and really engage and provide the feedback and input to the process as best as I can. So to me, the mechanism is constantly just, I adopted this thing, I just look at the forehead, so I try not to look at the frowns or anything else. So, and I just go and sort of engage and try to address the issues as best as I can. But it's still, I wouldn't say breaking barriers, because I think that we encounter that every day in subtle ways and in different scenarios. So I think it's really developing that mechanism and that inner voice that says, you know, you have something to say it and share it, and you have a job to do, and you go out there and do it. Yeah.
I should say importantly that my whole career here I've worked for men, and I have found myself drawn to those particular advisors and supervisors that will say, what do you think? And so the men at Columbia have been just as much a part of breaking those barriers as the women. So I want to be clear that there are, that's not, you know, I find them and I'm eager to be around them.
They're there.
And I happen to be around the greatest in my daily life. So I want to be sure to say that too.
I wanted to say that I've been working for a long time. I started working back in the days where I had a boss who would say, well, we're going to give John a 5% raise because he has a family. And it would be like, what? It didn't make sense then, but you didn't question it. So that was a long time ago. But I particularly want to talk about the women who are here that are in construction, because we have some amazing women in our department, and they work in the minority in an industry that is really male-dominated. And they do this work, and they are able to achieve things not because they're women, but because they're human beings who are capable that happen to be women. And so I just really want to applaud them all, because I am so in awe of the work that they do, and they are breaking down barriers every single day. So thank you all.
Petros, I will tell you that the biggest barrier that I've ever encountered is in my own mind. It was the one I erected. I used to be a single parent on welfare, and it was what I saw for myself. It was how I saw myself. It was that I didn't know if I had anything in me that could achieve. And it was only as I was counting the dimes and nickels and pennies and quarters lined up on the dresser that I was going to use to feed my child that I said, one day I have to do better. I didn't know what better looked like. I came from a family that my mother didn't make it out of 9th grade. My father had a high school diploma, and he thought that was good enough, and factory work was where I came from, and that was what is expected. And anything else, actually, there was no vision for it. No one put that barrier in front of me but me then. It was what I saw for me. And when I got asked would I come to a place like Columbia University, the two pieces didn't go together. It's like, how does this former welfare person get a job at this prestigious university in New York City? And will I look dumb? And I can tell you every single day I look dumb. I had to, at some point I had to embrace my stupidity. And I was really okay with that. And I learned to turn it to a tool I could use. I don't mind one iota going into a meeting and say, can you please explain that to me? Will you please clarify that for me? Now, 80% of the time I know exactly what they're talking about, but I want them to push it further because I have to be ready to explain it to somebody else, and I better be clear on what I'm saying. 20% of the time I don't know what I'm talking about, and it's okay because they don't know what I know and what I don't know. And so as long as I am consistent in the fact that I don't know what I'm talking about, everybody expects me to come to that meeting not knowing anything, and therefore I am not a threat to anybody. There are enough meetings I go into with brilliant people. Oh my gosh, I'm like, these people are brilliant. I have no clue what they just said to me. And as long as I'm not seen as a threat, then I get everything I need to get my job done. Yep. And so I have learned to keep the old civil rights saying was keep your eyes on the prize. I have learned whatever meeting I go into to keep my eyes on the prize. And if there's a barrier there and I look at that, then I've taken my eyes off my prize. My prize is over there. My prize is this. And that's where I have to stay focused. The time when I get in the most trouble is if I see a barrier put in front of someone else. Because then every instinct I have is to fight for that other person. And where I come from, if you get into a fight, you mean to take somebody down. We're not wrestling, you're going down. That's how it was in my family. We were mountain people, you're going down. And I find, I know you are, Petros. That is true. People have learned to be nice to me. Most times, and I have to tell this story, I am very nice at work. I really am. Except one time I went to a meeting and I wasn't so nice. And the people in the meeting were stunned. They were like, who is that? What happened? They thought somebody had possessed my soul. And it wasn't that. It was that if I see an injustice, that's a space it's a different space I'm going to go into. And I recognize that, and that's when all intelligence goes out the window. There's no intelligence anymore. It's fight time. And that's a barrier, again, that I put in front of me. And I have to say, that's the barriers here at Columbia. The barriers are the ones that you erect for yourself. This is a place that if you're willing to navigate, if you're willing to look for excellence, if you're willing to do the hard work, you can have opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. It's a place maybe like none other with what we have. Although I would say this to everyone in the room, the one thing I kept looking for was, where's the mentorship programs for the employees here? I think a mentorship program would work. It doesn't guarantee you're going to get a job. Let me just be clear about that. Getting into a mentorship program doesn't mean you're going to get anything else. But if we design mentorship programs to help vendors, why would we not do that for our own people who are here every day dedicating themselves to bring the best? I hope we are able to do that. I think of mentorship. I looked for my mentor. I was like, okay, who's going to mentor me here? I don't know anything about this place. And instead, what I did was follow people like Susan. I was like a shadow. If someone's going to sit in the room and she's going to do something, I'm going to listen. I'm going to listen. That's what you're doing right now. You're like, if we're getting a bunch of people together, maybe I'll learn something. And so you heard Susan say, let's start one, right?
I did. I said it.
Okay, all right. Questions? Yes. Where's Pat? Oh, we got a few. Okay, y'all, Pat, we got one over here, then we're going to come up here, okay?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Sharice Wyckoff. I work across the street at Barnard. I'm the executive assistant to the president. And I think basically I was going to you kind of said it about the mentorship program. With all of the affiliates, I mean, the only reason why I know about this is because I met Tanya in a bar and started talking. Maybe TMI, but we started talking about, how do we as Columbia University and all the affiliates get together and become stronger, and I love that you guys had this. However, I want more people to come. I'm thinking about all the women at Barnard who would love to be here. How do we as an affiliate and as a collective kind of come together, and maybe that's just kind of a conversation between all the colleges. How do we push this conversation forward? Because I'm like having a really good time and enjoying and learning, but I can think about all the people who can benefit from this and how we can all network and work together as a university.
So I wasn't sure at all that people would be interested. And so what you're looking at is like just the hope that some people would care enough to come. Really, I had no idea whether or not people would care enough to be here. So I think that if this is something people say is important on the administrative side, I think it's probably possible for us to do stuff, huh, Susan?
Yes.
Maybe.
Yeah. So I hereby start the mentorship program. And my philosophy at Columbia is just do it.
Just do it.
This costs no money. We just do it. So who's doing the next one?
Yeah.
This is how it starts.
That's how it's done.
And we'll figure out the affiliates. Mm-hmm. We'll figure out how to do it.
But you can make sure we got your contact information to help us figure it out, because you spoke up.
Yeah.
It's on a napkin. The bar.
Isn't it funny? I think that's so funny that I find it intriguing that because we don't have these mechanisms for engaging one another in this kind of setting, which is so critically important, that we find that we know each other through settings like bars, or you know, you're at whatever store and you're, you work at Columbia? I just find that so fascinating.
Yeah.
Or you're in China and you're, oh wait, you're here from where? Oh, well, how come we're not connected in the? So again, let's just do it.
Pat, I think we had a question here. We had a question up here, then one here, then Victoria, right? So we got movement.
Hi, my name is Menli Mansu. I work in learner operations for Honey Sue. I'm junior, and this is a great event because my roommate and I were recently talking about how much we appreciate working for women, and he's in finance. We met here, so one day I fully expect to work for a woman full-time for the rest of my life. One day I hope to be married, I say. So
You're already on a good path.
Yeah, I'm getting ahead of the curve. So, and I expect that most women in here, if you're not already leading, you will lead one day. So I'd like, along the mentorship path as well, if you could speak to your experience mentoring and managing men, because I know we talk a lot about the peers in the room and how you all came up as far as looking at your superiors, but I think what's going to be more and more common is women in leadership and having to mentor men, and that adds a different component, I think. But me, in my life, I always credit a lot of my upbringing to a strong woman, so I really appreciate female leadership. So I'd like to hear about that experience.
I like him.
Yeah, it's recruiting.
I hired him as a casual first.
There you go. The casual's going on.
I can say something, I guess. Strangely, all of my mentors have really been men. For the majority of my career, in fact, Lisa Hogarty was probably the only person I worked directly for any period of time. And you know, it really didn't make a difference for me who mentored me or how I mentor the people that work for me. The principles don't change, the expectations don't change, strive for excellence doesn't change. And I don't know if that's right or wrong, but it is who I am, and how it's received is, I think my team is awesome, and in part that's hopefully a reflection of the mentorship that I've gotten over the years and passed along. It doesn't change for me.
I think women, and I hate general comments like this, but I think you can generally say that women are nurturers. And I think nurturing and training are the same thing. You know, and I look at this both as an observer and how I like to take it on myself. Training requires clear communication. Training requires an understanding of where the employee is. Are they hearing you or are they not hearing you? So that's not their fault. What are you going to do that's going to change? It's a very nurturing kind of quality that maybe instinctively in some women leaders, it's in men too. But if that's one characteristic that would jump out as something that I find kind of commonly in women leaders, that they're willing to take the time to make sure that the employees have the tools they need to be successful.
Can I ask Ratty to respond, just because he's had the blessing and curse of being reporting both to myself at one point and also to Tanya. And so he's had to work under two women at different points and I hired Ratty and didn't know him. He came through Workforce One, and he's been with us. How long have you been with us now?
5 years.
Yeah, and he's been promoted, and we're happy to have him. So maybe you could help talk to what you've experienced.
So hi, I'm Ratty, and as La-Verna said and has put me on the spot twice today, much appreciated, by the way, and Tanya also earlier. I'm noting all this. You know, my whole time here, I've reported to amazing women who, and I'm not saying that really because they're in the room, you guys can close your ears, but really it's more, they do take the time to be more than just supervisors, right? I think they're really invested in helping me personally, in my experience, get to the next level of what I see my career path going and how to align my goals with my current and any future roles as well. So I think they've done a great job at keeping all that in mind and tailoring that to the individual. I know Honey Sue said, the principles don't change, and I think that's absolutely appropriate, because I do see that they certainly treat all the employees in that manner, but they do work with them individually to help them grow to whatever their level is. So I think that's been a great experience. So hopefully you guys can also get that experience as well, because I think you're right. We're going to see a lot more leaders that are females in all industries that are going to be amazing in helping us grow. Does that answer your question? And thank you, La-Verna. What day is it?
It's my favorite day.
There were two questions, Pat. There was one in the back, and then there was Victoria up front.
My name is Yota Michailidis. I'm working under Housing for Finance, and I just want to give you an applause for all your happy faces, your smile that takes no money, but it spreads happiness and it makes people happy, for all your good advice, and also to mention something that is the current trend in today's world that we hear all the time: innovation, creativity, and the words for that. So I think everybody has an idea, and sometimes ideas is like snowflakes. When they land on you, either you're going to take it, nourish it, share it, or you're going to throw it away, and it's going to be gone. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Victoria.
Although I probably actually, I don't have a question. What I do have is a
Fabulous
statement.
glasses.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We like fabulous glasses. My name is Victoria Benitez, for those of you who don't know me. I'm Director of Communications here at Columbia, but that doesn't matter. La-Verna hired me.
Yes, I did.
Almost 11 years ago.
Yes.
And I have to say, and this is to all of you, because at one time or another, I've worked with you all. And I just want to thank you, La-Verna, for all that you've done for this institution and for anyone who has had the fortune of working with you, either on a project or just sitting here talking to, a group of men and women who are in search of, just being successful. You are excellence, and it chokes me up, but you are excellence. And I just wanted to make that statement. And thank you for taking the time with all of us, and I know I'm not alone in this, in changing our lives and making our lives better.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Really quickly, she's going to kill me for this, but I want you guys to know how beloved La-Verna really is. On May 3rd, she's going to be honored by the Harlem Business Alliance at their annual gala as the first recipient of their 2017 Woman of Action Award for all she's done for Harlem and the community.
So, yeah, I'm back. So just two things. One, to echo those sentiments. Really, La-Verna, I'm fortunate enough to be at the proximity to see everything that's on your plate, for you to step outside of that and say, this is important, and to get all these people in the room, that's just amazing. So I do hope that we continue that, and hopefully with some affiliates as well, and looking forward to that mentorship program. Appreciate it. Great. So that's first of all. And then second of all, at this event that La-Verna alluded to earlier, in which Tanya received an award for, one of the things on the program was one of your proudest achievements. And I'd like to pose that question to the panel to see if there are any achievements in your career, not necessarily even at Columbia, that you're most proud of, that can help someone in my position to kind of learn from. And
very nice.
Okay.
So, Radi, it had to be a paisano to ask that question.
So I guess for me, I was born in the Dominican Republic and came to the United States at the age of 9. Again, parents, immigrants, went to school. I'm the first family member, and my family's pretty it's pretty big, to graduate college and work at an institution like Columbia. So I came here already with a master's degree, and I'm tying this in because it goes back to this great woman on stage, and I get a little emotional. So for me, I guess one of my greatest accomplishments when I look at my life, and there's a lot of hard work in working with families, but then I get a colleague on top of all the things that I think that I've done. I'm this big wig, I'm at Columbia, checked out all my boxes, I'm good. And a colleague calls and say, hey, I'm in this great program at Columbia. Why don't you apply? I just said, what? Why would I want to now? Me? I mean, I don't need a Columbia degree. I don't need to do this. Sure enough, La-Verna took me out to lunch. Next thing I knew, I was asking for letters of recommendation and getting all of my degrees. So for my family, particularly my mom, who thought that I've checked all those boxes, it was fine. And she was like, what? What is she doing now? Columbia? She's going to Columbia? I said, no, Columbia, where I work. So I work at the medical center, and Uptown we're perceived as the hospital. But she works at the hospital. What she means is now flying off to Columbia to study. I said, no, I'm actually going to Columbia University. And I think that for me, as an immigrant, as a representative of the Dominican community in Washington Heights, just to go now back to George Washington High School where I graduated and sort of say, Columbia's not that hard. I went to Columbia, and here's where it is, and here's what you can do it. I think that for me, both on my family, on the personal end, and also in terms of giving back to my community, it sort of serves them and says, oh, if she did it, I can do it. And to me, that's my greatest accomplishment, to go back to my community, to another 9-year-old immigrant and say, it's okay if you don't speak English now. A few years from now, you can do this and also, be one of the Columbia doctors. So that's my greatest accomplishment.
What'd you get the degree in now again? What was it?
Negotiation and conflict resolution.
The best program ever. I'm just telling you, the best program ever. Okay, all right.
I would say what I said today on the program. I think one of my greatest accomplishments, or a greatest accomplishment that I've been a part of, is really this Manhattanville project and the achievements that we've made with goals that were unthinkable, that no other organization has, that 35% of all of the building that we're doing will go to minority women or local companies, and 40% of the people working on the project will be minorities or women or from the local community. And when I look at where we came out with Jerome L. Green and Lenfest, and we're at almost, and correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, because Peter keeps the numbers, we're almost at 50% MWL. So 1 out of every 2 people walking to work on that project is either from this community or a minority or a woman. And I don't know, I just get chill bumps because I feel like we're making a difference. This is amazing. And so I hold that and I try to keep that going every day. And it's like it's a beacon for me.
Very good. Nice. So this is where I feel humbled by everybody on this panel. The support role that I play at Columbia, every day I come here and every day I want to try and make something a little bit better. So I'm hoping that there's a culmination of things that I achieve every day that is one big accomplishment in this puzzle. So I don't really have anything. When I walk into when I was up at the medical center, we opened up our cafe in the education center yesterday. When I walk in and I hear all the students say, oh my God, this is awesome. Or when I see an ocean of blue shirts somewhere, or if I see it overseas, or if I see, students just filling the lounge spaces that we built in the center, or, whether it's something that I achieve with a colleague. It's just, those are the days that are my favorite days.
Very nice.
I really want to say something inspiring, and I can't think of anything, so I'm just gonna speak from the heart and tell you that my greatest accomplishment, actually at work, is having my 3 children. And what I mean is, you know, I grew up in the South. Not all of the women chose a career path that was work-related. It was homebound. And so I had those family pressures. And when I decided I wanted to have a family of my own, I encountered those pressures. Columbia afforded me the opportunity of not having to make that choice, but it was me and what I was able to do with that that made it work. And I have to say, I'm really proud of the fact that my kids are, you know, they're excited when their mom goes to work every day, and they're okay. They're okay.
So I have to say, the fact that you took a pause on that before you shared it shows some of the struggles sometimes that we have, right?
Yes.
And it's interesting, at Tanya's event this morning where she was being honored, Reverend Sharpton, people were trying to figure out what he had in his coffee. Because one of the things he talked about was whenever he has to do the eulogy for someone and there's family members crying, but he doesn't know that they've made a difference anywhere, and so how does he do with that? And I was sitting there wanting so badly to jump up and scream at him and say, you know what? You don't have to be out there to make a difference. That, in fact, if what you've done is raise a wonderful family, that is enormous. That is a gift to society. Society has so many struggles today, but when you can look at someone's family and you can say, that family's okay. Mama works, daddy works, whatever, but the children are okay. You know, there used to be this little Maasai.
And so is work.
And work is good.
Turns out it's okay to have kids.
There used to be this thing where the Maasai warriors, they talked about the Maasai warriors would greet each other, these fierce warriors. The way they would greet each other was to say, and how are the children today? It didn't matter whether or not they had children of their own. What mattered was, as a village, are all our children okay? And the Maasai warriors needed to be able to respond, and all the children are okay. I think there's something about that almost the same way we look at Columbia. Can we look at our Columbia family and say, and all of Columbia is okay? And how is Columbia today? Wouldn't it be beautiful if we greeted each other that way? To be able to really walk up and say, how's Columbia today? And you could say, Columbia is okay. I think we'd all walk away with our heads up just a little bit higher, right? Be just a little bit prouder of the role that we play. No one else has to know about it, because whatever you touch, you can make better. No one else has to know that, except for you. Yes, Ms. Sheena.
Sorry, I just, as somebody who was at Columbia for so long and now gone, I can do that. And this question wasn't posed for me, but my greatest accomplishment in my career, which I'm still building and it's still growing and changing, is Columbia and has been Columbia. I take Columbia everywhere with me. It is a part of me. You know, people see it on the resume, that's nice, but then it's like, oh, you know this person from where? Oh, yeah, you know the Columbia kid. It's everywhere. It is a part of who I am. My career, my home, it's everything. You know, my baby has a little Columbia bib.
Yes.
And, you know, at her school, they're like, oh, did you go to Columbia? Yeah, my uncle, and then he knows someone who I know in the facility. You know, it's just, it's everything. So, count your blessings. You know what I'm saying? To be in this room, to still be at Columbia, not yet Columbia, it is still a part of you. It'll always be a part of you, and it will be one of your greatest accomplishments. It'll, you know?
Yeah, thank you. No, that's good. So I'm going to ask each of the panelists as we wrap this up to please share just any closing thought you'd like to share with anybody. And I'll start with you, Sandra.
Closing thoughts.
Well, first of all, thank you. Thank you for inviting me and being among this great women. Honey and I were chatting yesterday in terms of what do we say, how we do this, and it's funny because I remember said, oh, it'll be okay. And I think what I want to share is that this was great. This was more than okay. I felt very at home. My heart is filled with joy, so I still, I'm leaving here more enthused than ever. So I just want to leave you all with that whole concept of commitment to excellence and one family. I think that being at Columbia has been, for me, really a great accomplishment, not just for what I've been able to do, but really for what I'm able to take with me everywhere I go, which is the commitment, the love, and I'm a big passion person. Yes, the compassion, because I'm in healthcare, and we really do great compassionate stuff up there in terms of changing people's lives. So I really want to leave with a great heartfelt thank you to all of you and La-Verna for this day. And I want to do this again. Yeah. Yes.
Everybody keeps looking at me. We're going to do this again. Okay, my parting words are find an example of excellence. Don't make it up. Don't make it up. Don't say, oh, that might be excellent. Find examples of excellence. The next time you see it, tell the story.
Oh, nice.
And if we all do that, I mean, let's see what happens with that. I think that'll be really, again, I'm taking advantage of you all because you're here, and I can tell you'll all take that in and actually do something with that. So thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to exploit excellence. Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you to all of you. It's been great. Thank you.
I guess what I would share is my parting thoughts, which is what I bring to work every day, is just challenge yourself to continually keep an open mind, remain flexible, whether it's in your thoughts about your own career or about your work. Bring energy. It's a journey, and just keep moving it along. It's a great place. I mean, we are all part of a fabric that we call Columbia, so.
Thank you.
One of the things I've noticed is it's busy here. Everybody's so busy. Everybody I call, it's busy. But you know what? I would love it if we could all just take a moment, no matter how busy we are and what's going on, when other people reach out and need some help or guidance, take that moment. Because it may only be a moment for you, but it may mean the world to them. And if we can all do that, then we'll keep moving along, paying it forward, and helping each other out.
Thank you. Again, there's probably two things I want to close with. One is to not give up. Whatever your dream is, don't give up on that. Before I came to Columbia, some years before that, I worked for Save the Children. And I'm telling you, I had a boss who just drove me up a wall. Clearly, I was so annoyed. And it took me one full year for me to understand how my boss heard. It wasn't for my boss to understand me. It was for me to learn how my boss heard. And for one full year, I studied what my boss responded to, how my boss responded. And after that year, people started coming to me saying, how come she always responds to you? How come she hears you? It was because I took the year to hear her. And I would encourage people, when you want to blame someone else for your lack of progress, just stop and step back and do a whole other re-examination of it and see what piece of the puzzle you might be missing. And in facilities, when we started this year, we actually handed out pieces of puzzles to people, and there was a great big puzzle that was put together of Columbia, and what did it say, Dan? Help me out. It said, when we all work together, we make a beautiful picture. Something like that, right? Like a pieces of a puzzle. Thank you. because Dan put it together. I didn't, you know. It was just my idea, but Dan made it happen, you know. And I want to say, it was Dan's idea. See, that's the point. It was Dan's idea. That is the point. It doesn't matter sometimes how it comes together if it's the picture that you're looking for and it gets created. So I want to encourage all of us to know that we're all pieces of that puzzle, and we create the world we all want to live in. So do not give up on your dream. Whatever it is, do not give up on it. I want to thank each of you so much. I'm so honored. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to each of you. The one thing I tell people is you never get time back. So the fact that you've been here, you will never get this time back. So I hope it was worthwhile for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.